How's it going, 3D printers? Andrew Sink here, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the Prusa Adaptive Variable Layer Height feature found in PrusaSlicer. This feature is a great way to add extra detail to your 3D printed parts without necessarily dramatically increasing the time. When 3D printing a part, changing your layer height can have a dramatic impact both on the build time as well as the surface finish of your 3D printed part. Historically, this has been a trade-off between speed and quality. However, using the Variable Layer Height tool, we can find a middle ground. PrusaSlicer has had the ability to vary the layer height for a while, but up until now it's been a manual process, which can be time-consuming on larger prints. By using the adaptive function of the Variable Layer Height tool, we're able to automatically create a map of our custom layer heights. This is a quick and effective way of improving the surface quality of your part without doubling the build time. In this video, we're going to print a few different versions of this model to highlight the impact this feature can have. For our first model, we're going to use the 0.3mm draft mode on PrusaSlicer. For this experiment, we're not going to be changing any of the settings, we'll just be using everything as default. You'll notice our print time here is 1 hour and 55 minutes, and the striations are fairly thick, and we can see many of the shallow curves have very pronounced stepping. Using this model, let's go ahead and send it to the 3D printer. Overall, the print is a very consistent finish, but the layer lines are readily apparent. Just looking at the sides and some of the shallow curves, you can tell this was definitely 3D printed. For our next model, we're going to use the 0.1 detail setting in PrusaSlicer. This will give us a much finer surface finish at the expense of time. Printing our test object at this resolution will take 5 hours and 41 minutes. At this layer height, the part has an almost injection molded quality to it. You have to get very close to the model to see the layer lines, and even then, they're only really apparent when you have lighting coming from above or below, which can highlight the valleys in the 3D print. So now that we have a high quality and low quality model to compare, we're going to use the Variable Layer Height tool. By clicking the Adaptive button, the software will automatically create a map where it's changed the layer height depending on the surface geometry. You'll notice it can vary pretty wildly. So here we've got a 0.26mm layer going all the way down to 0.15. So it's a pretty big jump and it doesn't happen very gradually, it's pretty rapid. So we can click the Smooth button to gradually smooth out these changes and transitions to give it a more even appearance. Once we go to the toolpath, you can see these gradual changes in the final model. Just like we saw in the toolpath, the changes to the layer height are visible in the final model. When looking at our variable height model, the first thing to notice is it looks pretty good. Considering it's only a marginal time increase over the draft mode model, this is an even more impressive option. If you look at the model dead on, you'll notice it's very high resolution in the highly featured areas, but on the feet, it's got a fairly thick layer height to it, but the model still retains a good amount of detail. So here are the three side by side. On the far left, we have the 0.3mm layer height model, and it has some fairly visible striations. Once we move over to the variable and the high detail model, you'll notice those smooth out considerably. Overall, the variable layer height model looks very good, and it's a more than acceptable compromise between low and high detail. The model I used for this video is called Wooden Cat, and you can download it on Thingiverse, and you can find the link to that in the description for this video. As always, thanks for watching and have fun printing.